Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World Podcast, the official podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. This is episode 75, where we'll be taking you back to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure. So we're going to go back to that well-loved attraction playground at the Disney-MGM Studios. But before I do that, let's go our introductions as always. Mr. JT Cousier, how you doing tonight, JT?
I'm great. I love an MGM episode.
This is
right my wheel well, as they say. That's...
Right. I love that. Oh, it is. It is. It's funny. The four of us were there about a month ago, and it is really it's an interesting park, and it's I've grown to like it over the years in a different way. So.
This played into it, the movie and the movie set.
That's right, the whole studio thing and understanding how they did that. We're going to eventually talk about another Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in the walking tour, because we haven't done the walking tour yet, which is great. Yes. That'll be a great episode coming up on that. But we'll get to that eventually. I think being that actual attraction was like 3 hours, it might take us 12 episodes to do that one. So. Only How can tell. How coming in from, I got two more on my list here. The lightning capital of the world, apparently. The Tampa area has been doing that.
Yes, it is the lightning capital of the world. We get a lot of lightning strikes here.
Yeah. So be careful. Lightning hurts.
Be sure not to hide under trees and the whatnot.
How many times have you been struck now?
Personally, 14.
14. It's better than 66.
Yeah, 13 was unlucky, but 14 is cool.
14, you're good.
He's been struck by lightning. How many times is it now, Reg?
6 times. 66 times. 66 times. God, that's gotta hurt.
And coming in from Philadelphia area, my friend Brian P. Miles. How you doing tonight, Brian?
Greetings and salutations. And the reason that the Disney-MGM Studios / Disney Hollywood Studios grows on you as you get older is because it's so small and easy to walk.
Yes.
And as you get older, the idea of like you walk through Spaceship Earth and you're like, I got to go to the Italy Pavilion for pizza. Like, isn't there a tram or a bus or
take a friendship boat that doesn't...
Yeah, some kind of transit van that can run me back there or... And, even the Magic Kingdom starts to seem big as you get older, and you're just like, ugh, let's walk.
But there's also an after-dinner quaintness that is always fantastic.
As you know, when the sun goes down, I say there is no park that is better looking than Hollywood Studios and all that neon and the classic look. And we did our own little walking tour after dark, after we left dinner at the Brown Derby. So
that was wonderful. We all enjoyed some wonderful Caesar. Cobb salads. Where am I going? I got in the wrong direction here. So,
and I don't know if you saw on Twitter, but our friend Ed Clark, Hoosier Ed on Twitter, had dinner at Le Coq au Vin last night with Chef Pitts, and
excellent.
Chef Pitts spent some time with him and told some good stories. And
that's wonderful.
Yes.
All right. Well, we've got a lot to talk about tonight, but as always, JT, you dig into the mailbag. We've been receiving a lot of different things over the past couple months here, and this is our first real attraction episode in a while. So, do we have some? What are people writing into us about?
Lots of random stuff. I found this month to be a potpourri, and I'm actually waiting for a response on one of the questions we have here. But
see that we do research for you.
Yeah, right on time. So this first one is from Brett, and this is actually going to be a fun picture that you're going to see on the show notes here, in the show notes. He says, just listen to your Maelstrom episode, a favorite of a lot of people. He wanted to share this Opening Crew 1988 shirt he picked up online a few months ago. He's just he's curious if we've ever seen it. It's got a sweet, like, I don't know how I can probably describe the logo, what that's all about. It says World Showcase Epcot Opening Crew, May 1988. And got some Norwegian folks on there and a boat in the background. It's pretty slick. So,
what kind of art is that considered where...
Let me bring that up.
Where half of the faces...
That's the pavilion artwork.
No.
Did. Yeah,
I know, but is there a term for that art where...
you could call it contone or black and white artwork. It's kind of almost sort of like a cut paper style. But if for the folks at home, if you have ever seen pictures from, I think Brian posts the calendar every so often, the Imagineering one that has
month actually.
Yeah, all the logos from the different pavilions. This was the official logo, and actually it's funny. I don't know if that's the correct type from the pavilion, but all of the pavilions in World Showcase have these wonderful little like black and white, simple little illustrations. I think most of them have ended up on T-shirts like Mexico and the American Adventure, and this is a wonderful example of that tradition continuing forward.
Cool. I was always curious about that. It's I mean, now there's plugins to Photoshop and Illustrator that can make that happen in a second, but it's a really cool.
Yeah, well, you just in the old days, you just sit down and draw it. You draw it in pen and ink, and then you take it to a stat machine, and then you'd shoot it so you could increase the size, up or down. People probably have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, but back before you could just scan things and make them the size that you wanted, or draw them in Illustrator, you draw them in. Start with pencil, and then you'd eventually fill in the lines with, black ink or tape or something. So you'd have just a straight black and white piece of artwork. And then you'd go to this machine called a stat camera, which was capable of photographing your artwork in just black and white.
Yep.
And no shades of gray. And you would change out lenses and adjust all these sizes. And it had lights inside of it, so it would light it up. And then you'd take your picture of it after you dialed in how much bigger or smaller in percentages you need it. And then you get a physical piece of paper film out of it that you would have to run through chemicals. And then it would come out on the other end.
The point is,
cut it out. Yeah.
Everything used to be really hard.
It was. Everything was really, really hard to do.
Yep.
Today, it's just, make it 200% bigger and hit the print button.
My father had one of those giant stat cameras.
Oh, he did.
Because in the printing industry, right, you would do all your mock-up and your pasting work first. So they would do that at a specific size, the typesetting, and that was done in black and white. And then you would take that down to the camera and you would make a photo negative that would then be developed like you did. You could blow it up depending on what you did. And then the negative would then be burned onto the plate. And then that would become the positive for the ink transfer. So a lot of process. So photostat camera was, I remember actually I drew a picture of a mouse. I've got it somewhere sitting on a pumpkin, and I told my dad I drew it too large or too small. So I sent him to work one day, and he blew it up for me. But he could do positives as well as negatives, which was really cool.
So what we're saying is, if you're listening to us, there are two kinds of people who listen to this podcast. There are those of you who are familiar with going to a library or to a supermarket and paying a dime or a quarter to photocopy a page out of something that you needed to photocopy, or those of you who have no idea what we're talking about. And we're explaining it for those of you who have no idea what we're talking about. That was a thing that you used to do.
Or the third person, your one of your parents worked at a workplace and they ran a quick one for you just on the sly without getting fired.
Absolutely.
Oh, there you
absolutely.
go.
You could always do that. That was, there's a friend of mine I had lunch with a couple weeks ago, said, my father told me, my friend Bob's in his 70s now, he's retired, but he says, my father told me There are two kinds of jobs in life. You can have the kind of job where you shower before you go to work, or you shower when you come home from work. So if you had the kind of job where you showered before you went to work, he might have had access, or she might have had access to a Xerox machine that could copy stuff for you. There weren't a lot of auto mechanics though that had a Xerox or copier in their shops or factory floors. Or
remember the one you'd go to the library sometimes, or you'd have to buy the.
It was a dime or a
dime
quarter.
each. Yeah, some of them. Yeah,
I remember
grocery stores had them.
Yeah, grocery stores had them. Our grocery store had them, and
Tommy.
Hey, Richard, just making some copies.
The Tom Man making copies. The Tomster, Tomaruski. The Tom Meister.
Instead of the, make copies now, the big plastic thing, ours, those coin operated ones often just had like a vinyl sheet. Remember, it was like
real thin, and
it was like a car mat, like a floor mat in a car that would just lift up, and so they were made for to avoid abuse and breaking.
All right. Well, we're gonna continue on the art path here.
Let's get back to Walt Disney World.
No.
We're on the art.
Yeah, Andrew is our next letter here. He says, "Hi guys, longtime listener to the show. I had a question regarding the iconic sign outside of the Haunted Mansion. I recently got a tattoo of this, and during the consultation process with my artist, I couldn't help but be blown away by the fine detailing that went into it. My question is, do you know who is responsible for the design of the sign? I've read my fair share of mansion books, but I haven't come across the original artist. Hopefully you guys with your resources will be able to find some info. Thanks again, and can't wait for the next show. Andrew."
I also have to agree. I have never seen anything that attributes that piece of artwork and the sculpture that was done of that sign to anyone in particular. There were certainly a handful of people working in the art department at that point. I assume it probably started with the graphic designer. It's interesting. It's a weird period of time too, because even like New Orleans Square, which happened, I'm trying to think, that was before the Haunted Mansion opened.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was actually jobbed out to a design firm. I guess WDI didn't have any in-house graphic designers, or not enough to support that at that time. So they actually outsourced it. So I'm not sure if that's another case where that particular piece of art was outsourced to that firm or not. So it's a good mystery to look into, and we certainly shall.
All right, Andrew, there you go. Hopefully the tattoo came out good, though. Next up is Ross. Ross says, "Hi guys, just listened to the vacation planning episode and the discussion of fireworks from the airplane. Great work as always." This is great. I love this because I'm sure somebody else out there had this very same experience, and this to me speaks to what Epcot used to be, as we used to say. One of the very first emails I sent was from a terminal in Epcot. I don't remember the exact date, but it was in the early 90s. That, of course, was at a time when AT&T was sponsoring Spaceship Earth with lots of futuristic ideas about communications, video phone booths, and all that good stuff. As a teen then, it was hard to believe that all these technologies would come true. But in December of 2019, I was on an inbound Orlando flight for a family tradition trip to WDW. It was a rare approach path that took us just east of the property just after 9 p.m. I was able to catch reflections of Earth off my side of the airport just as they were reaching a vivid fire in the sky. I started a FaceTime stream with my mom, who was watching them off the balcony of her condo in Reunion, and also to a friend who was on the patio at Rose and Crown. All this in near perfect synchronization as I was 6,000 feet above, moving at 300 miles per hour. The whole thing took my memory straight back to the first email in Communicore 30 years ago. That is what it's all about.
Isn't that crazy? Actually, I remember there were one or two places where he might have done that. And the one that I'm thinking of was in an AT&T section when it became Inventions. And they had a couple of machines set up where you could email people. And I remember one was using a operating system called Magic Cap, which I think they had a device. AT&T had a device that used Magic Cap, but it never went anywhere else. It was an icon-based, sort of like a real desktop metaphor. To launch the applications, it looked like you were looking at a picture of a desk, and there was, I think, like a piece of mail on the desk, and when you clicked on it, it opened up a window, and that you could type this stuff, and it was kind of like a competition for the Newton. It was pen based, and you could send yourself an email, or I mean, at that point, how many people had emails in the in the 1994? So I remember I sent myself probably something on AOL or
You've got mail.
Yeah, like that. But yeah, that was a big deal then.
I wonder who Ross emailed.
That's a good question. And do they still have it in their spam filter?
What if it's then floating in space? All right, we got a couple more here. This one's from Ramon. Ramon says, "Hi there. First off, I want to congratulate you guys on the Maelstrom episode. Excellent as always. Small comment. You guys mentioned that you could not recall World Showcase representations of countries in the present time. Did we say that? I guess we did, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
All right. He says that we said that most countries are built to hark to bygone historic eras of their countries. While that is 99% true, there is one exception. Does anybody know what it is?
Well, we had said the Eiffel Tower, because that was the closest the 1800s. And I'm trying to think. There was another one that I think we had mentioned. The chateau, one of the chateaus in Canada when that was built. Those were the two that I identified. So what did he have?
Ramon says that in the Rio del Tiempo, a massive and beautiful Mexico City mural at the end of the ride, it is a modern depiction of the capital city of Mexico.
He is 100% right. We talked about that in our Rio del Tiempo episode, and dang it, nice.
Yeah,
nice
we
job.
forgot about it.
All right, Ramon. And Ramon is a friend from Puerto Rico. So
there you go.
Welcome, Ramon. We're glad to have you along. It's once again Epcot connecting the world. Look at that. All right, last one. This is from our old pal Reese. And Reese, if I get an answer before we finish recording, I'm just going to stop production and I'm going to give you the answer here because I don't know this. But Reese had a question. She wanted to know, and maybe one of the fellas here has the answer. She wanted to know, at Fort Wilderness, why is it called Clementine Beach? It seemed odd to me because the beach was given a name, but only one side of the dock. And that's true. They only named one side of the dock. Like Clementine, I believe, is to the left if you're walking towards the water.
Correct,
so
yeah.
That's where they did Sandblast and, Iron Man challenges and stuff over there. Then originally the right side was where you'd be your swimming side over there. So she's curious if we knew anything about it. Reese, I put a call out to the Fort Wilderness experts, and if we have an answer here before the show is over, we will we'll let you know. Or it'll be in the show notes if we don't have it before the recording is over. All right, that's going to close the mailbag. If you'd like to ask us a question, tell us a story, or anything in between, reach out, podcast@retrowdw.com. We read them all. We try to get as many as we can on the show, but definitely appreciate all the notes and messages you send us.
All right, well, it's about time we dig in here to our main topic, which, as we said at the top of the recording here, this is the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure, which has to be in the running for one of most syllables in a name of an attraction, I'm sure. Probably affectionately referred to as the Honey, I Shrunk playground, or that big playground over there with the tall grass, or what's that place we were here with the dog nose. But boy, the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that was a great franchise when it happened in the late 80s there. And as you said, JT, this perfect fit into the Disney-MGM Studios, because this was about seeing what it was like to be on a set, but at the same time have a great time playing. And it was very, very innovative for its time. So I know how you've done some research on this. I remember going there, watching my son go through it as recently as 2009, something like that. I attempted to crawl through it in college, have that on video, and me going, ow, 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 as I kept bumping my head. My sisters went through it in the early 90s when they were little. But it was a great place, that opening in 1990. So Hal, take us back a little bit, and then we're going to walk through this whole adventure and try not to get wet.
Well, okay. So as you said, Disney-MGM, that's where the movies were if you weren't at Universal. And this is based on the box office smash Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, which opened up on June 23rd of 1989. And it in fact was like a huge box office smash that year. It grossed $132 million in the United States. And now think, this is 1989. So anything getting to $100 million in the US is a huge deal. It made $22 million worldwide, and it was number 5 in the US box office ranking. So does anyone want to try to guess?
222 million.
222 million.
Which is today equivalent to about $500 million.
So that's really good. Anybody want to guess what the 1989 what the movies were that were made more money than Honey, I Shrunk the Kids?
One of them is Batman.
You are absolutely correct. That was the number 1 movie that year.
That was it. I saw that at the drive-in. Well, I saw Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and Batman was playing behind us, and I was too little. My mom said, "You better not turn around and watch Batman. You better focus on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids." And I was so disappointed because I really wanted to see Batman.
That's funny. All right, so number 2 was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yes. Good choice.
The Sean Connery one. Then Lethal Weapon 2.
Okay.
Another excellent film.
Yep. And then number 4 was Rain Man.
What a year.
Of course, I'm an excellent driver.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I think the funny thing is, like, so those are, I mean, not that Batman and Indiana Jones weren't, kid friendly, but for a family movie to like hit that high,
it's like crack into it like that.
That's a really big deal. And over the course of time, so that it's made more money than Ghostbusters 2, Back to the Future Part 2, and The Little Mermaid. So
and it spawned not only what we're talking about today, right? It spawned an additional 3D movie in the parks. It spawned Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, Honey, I Blew Up the Kids.
Yeah.
And a television show called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show. And in production right now is Shrunk.
Shrunked, yeah. The Josh Gad, Rick Moranis returns to film for the first time.
Exactly.
What's crazy too is that movie. I mean, short of Rick Moranis, a lot of no-name stars. So, I mean, I don't think it cost them a ton to make. They probably spent more on special effects than talent.
Well, that was the Eisner thing too. Was taking so just for the background, it was written for Chevy Chase, who was doing Christmas Vacation at the time. So
another '89 movie, right?
Yep. He was doing Christmas Vacation, so he turned it down. Then they offered it to John Candy, who said it wasn't right for him, and he actually suggested Rick Moranis. So that's how Rick Moranis ended up getting the job. But Eisner's thing was always taking TV people and filling out the cast, even if he had one big name star, like he did with 3 Men and a Baby, where he took Steve Guttenberg, who was a movie star, and paired him up with Tom Selleck and Ted Danson, who were TV stars. So the rest of the cast here were either kids or really TV people. The wife played Mr. Cotter's wife, Julie, and Welcome Back, Kotter is probably what she's what Marcia Strassman was most famous for, other than Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
And they pushed this so hard. I remember on Disney Channel, like I saw the making of this so many times as a kid, like the kids getting strapped to the big broom and showing how they made that whole scene. I mean, it was like the hype level was huge, and then it was all right, maybe we're gonna go see this summer, because you didn't go to the movies every day like you can now. I mean, it was like a big deal going to the movies back then.
Yep. Well, and there was such production trickery behind it, which is why it was part of the backstage walking tour, which we'll talk about on a future episode. That whole shrinking thing was just people love shrinky movies, right?
Yeah, and it had its basis in the 1950s sci-fi B movies of the 50-foot tall woman and the
blob,
the invisible man, and
it was all that scientific stuff,
right? It was always the things
zany.
It was
funny,
before you got to Flubber and some of the later stuff that was a little more zany than anything else.
And it's funny too. You go back. This is kind of like an original idea, which we don't have a ton of these anymore in live action. On top of it, like if they made this now, it would be like a Pixar film or something.
And everything would be CGI now. So this was all, this was all done with practical set effects. And as I watched it earlier today, it occurred to me how small the set probably actually was, where they were in the. The kids are in the grass the whole time. Which is
you just turn the camera 73 degrees to the right,
and you move one obstacle. Spot. Right. Yeah, and you just have different effects. So
it's kind of like Hulk Hogan running through the Morocco Pavilion at all the different angles.
In
Thunder in Paradise. Yeah.
It reminds me more of the like the old cheap animation things where they use the same background and like they would just animate them running and it would be the same screen passing.
So for those that did not see the movie,
it's on Disney Plus. You can watch it.
Yeah, you can watch it there. The premise is very simple. Dr. Wayne Zielinski, played by Rick Moranis, has a shrinking machine up in his third floor attic/workspace. He's a crazy little inventor. He's got 2 kids, and accidentally the machine shrinks his 2 kids and the 2 next door neighbor kids. And unbeknownst to him and his wife, he finally figures out that they're actually been carried out into the backyard somewhere, and that's
threw
where
them out.
Yeah, that's right. He actually put them in the trash.
He came home dejected from a conference.
That's right.
Where his all the other scientists made fun of him.
You, sir, are not Einstein.
Right, and he comes home and he smashes up his machine, not realizing it has shrunk his kids and his 2 couches in the room.
Yeah.
Because the neighbor kid hit a baseball through the window, and that caused the machine, which didn't work before, to work properly because the baseball acted as an insulator. So he smashes his machine, sweeps up all the pieces, including the 4 kids, in the dustbin, throws them out in the trash, and they make their way out of the trash with a little help from the family dog who can see what's going on. And then they're in the backyard. And for most of the rest of the film, it's them making their way through the backyard, but at their size is like trying to traverse the Amazon jungle.
We're now a quarter of an inch tall and 64 feet from the house. It's the equivalent of 3.2 miles. It's a long way, even for a man of science.
And you know what's interesting? The special effects... And this carries over to the playground. It's not just how big things are. For instance, they're stuck in the trash bag and they cut open or whatever, right? It's thick because at that size, the trash bag would be thicker to you and would have a different density than it is to us because we could just poke a finger through it. But imagine being a quarter inch of, or a half inch in size, the density of that plastic to you and the camera of that size would be extremely different and very thick. So when you're imagining what we're talking about tonight in this playground, you have to remember, and also when you're looking at old photos and videos, things may seem out of proportion, but they're not because everything seems different when you're that small. So some of the blades of grass seem really, blades of grass are thin. Not when you're, 12 millimeters tall.
And that's a great setup because what they replicated in the attraction is that backyard, and many of the scenes from the film are reproduced. So I think the first thing that we need to kind of answer is like, why did this exist? And it wasn't just because somebody wanted it. Disney-MGM actually had a problem in that there wasn't much to do on the backlot tour between the tram tour and the walking tour. So this is back in the days when you would go take the tram tour and then end up at the tram station, and there was the loony bin, which had like the interactive boxes that you could open and close that would make sounds, and you could get something to eat. But there wasn't a heck of a lot to do there, particularly for young kids, to like burn off some energy before you would start going into the post-production tour and start the walking portion of that. So
hey, Dad, let's learn about editing.
Yeah.
Also, too, I think I mean, just like Epcot had add the splash pads, there was nothing to do for little kids.
Yeah,
really, in the park either, right? I mean, they needed this too.
There was one ride. The Great Movie Ride. That was it, right? That was all we had.
Well, you had Star Tours.
Came later.
Not at first.
Right. Well, when did Star Tours open?
December 1990, I think.
Okay, so the same year.
Yeah. But there was not a lot for little kids to do. So this was something that could, blow some time in between,
It was at the back of the park. It got you that way.
Yeah, it totally made sense. So with the success of the film, plans were quickly made to fill a wedge-shaped area between New York Street and the Studio Catering Company that was nothing more than cement and grass. And I think that was also where the Splash movie fountain was originally.
Yes, it was. It was right in that courtyard area before they moved it over to where the Muppets are.
Yeah.
It was over there for a while. But yeah, it was in that courtyard. There was a Coke machine, a big Coke bottle, too, thing right out front of it, too.
So not a lot going on
that used to mist water down at you.
Yes.
Right by the splash fountain.
Yep, you got it.
Yeah, the big Coke bottle. That was one of the things we lost in the war.
And if anybody's wondering where this is, if you enter Batu from the Grand Avenue where the Baseline Tap House is, and you walk through that tunnel, as the tunnel turns to the right, you would just about be you would be in the southern edge of the what do you call it?
The
playground. The rest of the trees, there's a lot. I don't know if you guys ever noticed on an overhead view on the northern side of Batu, there's that berm that they've created. And there's a lot of space there.
And what was the name of the quick service place right next to the playground?
Oh, that's right. There was one that was
well, the Studio Catering Company was the big
the one
thing
right back there, right?
But wasn't there was a bar back there too, I think.
Hold on, I got Birnbaum here from 94. What do you want? 99 or 94? What would be more accurate?
Start with 94.
All right, let's get to the food here. Sports.
I used to have a Studio Catering Company jacket at one point.
Oh, you should have
what
served
did you
at
do
Retro
with that
Magic
Studio
with that.
Catering Company jacket?
What's that?
I said, what did you do with that Studio Catering Company jacket?
Wear it when it got cold, I guess.
Oh,
goodness. Let's see. Starring Rolls Bakery, Dinosaur Curdy's, Backlot Express, Studio Catering Company.
He got constantly asked, "Hey, where's the ketchup, man?"
Yeah, I wouldn't wear it to the park.
Yeah, wear it to the park?
No, that would be asking for trouble.
Do you got any napkins, buddy?
All of that backlot tour red and yellow signage, that was what it was. That was the sign on it. And I just remember stopping in there frequently to get a soda, or I think they had hot dogs. And I mean, it was very basic. And then it was frequently closed in the later years. Like the chain would be up across it. And
so here it is. Yep, Studio Catering Company. This is Birnbaum. 99, he goes into it. Guest on the backlot tour come across the spot at the end of the tram ride, situated next to the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure playground. The eatery offers barbecue pork, beef and chicken sandwiches, turkey and cheese sandwiches, and snacks. There's a separate line for cones, sundaes, and shakes made with chocolate and vanilla soft serve ice cream. Beer is available at a nearby stand. Inexpensive. S for snack.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
My 95 book says it's just behind the loony bin. They changed the wording.
Oh. Well, they got to make correct adjustments.
Yeah, I'm thinking by 99, the loony bin was probably wiped out.
So I've got something interesting that's, because that's the entrance to Batu, couldn't they have made that the entrance to Toy Story Land and used the large things that were there and put Batu where Toy Story Land isn't Toy Story Land where Batu is? Just a thought.
I mean, potato, sure.
Yeah, because really, what is Toy Story Land now?
Yeah.
You've been shrunk down, you know?
To be honest, I'm surprised they never changed it to A Bug's Life, just to be current with. All right, so Imagineering show producer Michael McGivney, production designers Shannon Holloway and Philip Vaughn designed the playground based on sketches done by concept artist Richard Vaughn. And their goal was to create an interactive play experience for kids, which was a first for Disney because they had not considered playgrounds as a feature that was needed in their theme parks up to that point. So this is the first kind of large-scale playground ever in a Disney park. It was made to resemble a working set from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and it featured a lot of situations that were lifted directly from the film, so that way when you were in there, you would actually feel like you were in the movie. So we said that the movie opened on June 23rd, 1989. the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie set adventure opened on December 17th, 1990. So just a little over a year, and they had that sucker in there. And I remember going there, I think in, so it wasn't under construction in April when it opened, but I'd say by the fall or January of like 1990, it was already cordoned off and like construction had started. So they got on that remarkably quickly. And it was an immediate success when it opened. It had long lines and people were all over there. So it was quite a big deal. And another innovative thing, this is the first time I ever saw it, and it was the first time I believe it was used in a Disney park, is the floors were covered with what was then a new product called Safe Deck.
Oh, this stuff is really cool.
The springy rubber ground covering. It was very cool.
Was completely innovative. Was that used over at Rolly's as well, right? The Epcot water fountain. Did that have it?
Eventually, you started to see this product rolled out almost everywhere where there were like kids where kids could fall down. But up until that point, playgrounds were, either
mulch,
cement, mulch, or gravel.
We had a new playground put in our elementary school when I was in 3rd grade. And it was like shredded radial tires, and you hoped they had removed all of the steel belted radials.
We have some of those in our town too. Yep.
Oh my gosh!
Now the rubber mulch, you guys know this, that there's a fall rating on playgrounds, and I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but like if you had like a blacktop off of monkey bars and you fell on your arm, you could fall from like say 3 feet and not break your arm. Mulch raises the height by another foot or something. Then rubber flooring is even more cushiony, but that rubber stuff is more prevalent. I mean, it's at the playground right next to my house here. It's just kind of, but I do remember it because it was brown. It looked like dirt. It was all brown, and it was kind of spongy, kind of squishy, but it was just like this weird feeling on your feet at the time. You knew right when you crossed. Did it have a turnstile? Speaking of turnstiles, and
it did not have a turnstile.
I don't know why. I recall, like going into the entrance there. I recall like a gate or something.
Yeah, there was a very thin kind of entrance that you would walk into.
Yeah, and then I remember it was like boom. You're like you stepped onto that rubber. It was like a change in the floor type thing.
Yeah. Let's see. So, we always talk about, or I shouldn't say we, but many people discuss shade in children's areas. And what's, I think, interesting is that the area was actually very well shaded in 1990. There were 45 30-foot tall grass stalks, and each one of these grass stalks supported between 2 to 3 blades of grass that were between 25 and 28 feet long and 4 foot wide. And they each weighed about 500 pounds. And that would, sort of cast shadows and protect you from the sun. And then just a couple years later, I think probably by like 94, 95, they actually added fabric triangles like way up high on the top of the blades where you couldn't even really see them. So that way, larger areas even than that could be shaded. The project actually used more steel than the Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty combined.
Are you kidding me?
Really?
Yeah.
That is incredible.
Wait, more steel than them combined. The Eiffel Tower and the Statue of Liberty.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I got a hard time believing this fact.
I was just in the Las Vegas Eiffel Tower, which is half the size of the real one, so I have a very difficult time believing that.
Yeah.
Maybe the Eiffel Tower is made out of iron. Maybe it's a trick question.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay. I don't know. That was in the Disney publications. So
that seems just.
I know, mind-boggling, right?
What was it? The
Eiffel
Eiffel
Tower realize,
and the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah. So, the stalks were tested in a wind tunnel at Caltech, so that way they knew it could withstand 80-mile-per-hour winds, because the entire thing also needed to be hurricane-proof, right?
That's insane.
Yeah.
Although it was kind of, jimmied in there between buildings, but I suppose.
You don't want a giant, a 2-ton stalk of grass falling on somebody.
That's true.
That's never a good thing.
No.
The whole playground was designed for ages 2 to 10, but it was durable enough that parents could join their children. And they really hoped that instead of just like, sitting back and having a beer, that the parents would actually go with the kids into it.
Or have the beer and then go do it with the kids.
Right. That's probably back in the era where if you tried to walk in with a drink, they wouldn't let you.
Well, you got to finish it quickly. That's all. That's
right.
Why.
Yeah. That's a feature.
Yeah.
Not a, yeah. Although there were actually, as you mentioned, there were many areas that were too small for adults to fit into. So the playset was kind of broken up into 8 major areas. So the first one was for junior adventurers. So this was a section that was designed specifically for kids aged 2 to 5. It had a root maze, a leaf waterfall. So if you remember the leaf waterfall, it was like this big leaf, and then about halfway down there was kind of like a terrace, and then there was just this very thin sheet of water that would fall down, probably about 20 feet long, and then you could kind of run your hand.
Hold on. I'm hearing something. Are we? Yeah, we are. We are officially behind the waterfall. Do you hear that?
Oh yeah. Well,
we're definitely there. We've made it to the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids playground.
That is a fair point, because it used a lot of the same music, including that song Behind the Waterfall.
Over and over.
For background music that appeared in Wonders of Life and in Tomorrowland. It's funny how new age music really kind of ruled the roost. Like Ray Lynch and those guys must have made a boatload of money from that, just playing all day long in these spaces.
I was going to say new age music in that late 80s, early 90s was just all the rage. I mean, it was huge. It was
the era of Yanni
and oh my gosh.
And Zamfir and his pan
flute. Oh my goodness.
and you came later.
Right. You had all sorts of. We'll play a little sampling here.
Yeah.
What was Yanni had a famous one, and then remember he on PBS the Acropolis. He had the.
He did a live show.
He did the live show at the Acropolis.
Live show.
Was he not married to Deidre Hall from... I believe that's correct.
Our House, right? Wasn't the original, the primetime series she was on with Wilford Brimley, I think was called Our House.
Oh, that's right. And she was on Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives. She might still be on. Is Days of Our Lives still on? If it is, she might still be on it. Because she was like the Susan Lucci of Days of Our Lives.
So. That's right. That's right. Okay, so
you kids at home are Googling all of those names right
now. There was also a small spiderweb climber, which is interesting. You look back at photos, and it starts out just as like the big, sort of larger white lines that you walked on, and then over time you see that they added smaller netting all around it, because I guess kids must have fallen through the holes at some point, like legs and whatnot. If you were a fan of the Stepping Tones over in Journey into Imagination, they also had some Stepping Tones here too. So, except they were done up as fern sprouts. So there was kind of like this, sort of a staircase, if you will, where it sort of ascended, and you could step on them, and they would make little bloopy noises as you walked up it.
That was like almost like mini stumps in a way.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very good way to put it. And then there was like a small red leaf slide, so it looked like there was a small, and this was made for little kids, perfect size for them. The second area was called Building Blocks, and it had 2 giant Lego bricks. The largest one was 16 foot tall, and a 52 foot long garden hose that would intermittently spit water from a section of the hose that was repaired with tape. Now, this sort of brings 2 sections of the movie to life. One is where I believe, Brian, are they hiding from the scorpion when they crawl into the Lego bricks?
They sleep there too, right?
Yeah. There's that, but I'm assuming the movie was set in California. I never picked up exactly where they were supposed to be. So not being a Californian, I don't know, are scorpions just running all over the place in California? Because, you end up with a stop motion battle between the scorpion and their ant friend. They make a friend who's an ant, whose name is Auntie.
Yeah.
Very imaginative.
And the ant goes to fight the scorpion, and you're like, this ant's got no chance.
Come on. Hurry!
You could get killed. We gotta do something. He's just a baby. We gotta help him.
And the next thing you know is the Bambi's mother scene with the ant.
He sticks him with the stinger.
The ant gives its life to save the kids.
Isn't there in one of the Walt Disney nature shows a fight between a scorpion and an ant?
I don't have any nature
Yeah, I don't know
shows
if that
here,
was a callback. And Brian, I will correct you. It wasn't a stop motion fight. It was actually a go motion fight. It was actually a technique that was started, I think, during The Empire Strikes Back and perfected on Howard the Duck, where when they would shoot stop motion, they would actually have a little armature on the leg or whatever that was digitally controlled.
Okay.
And they would move the limb just slightly, so that way it was blurred.
Okay.
So it was blurred just a smidge when the still photo was taken. So when things would move around, it looked more natural, because if you did, in traditional stop motion, there was never any blur when something moved quickly. So it is a really nice sequence. It looks fantastic still today.
It does, although I would suggest that you watch it again in today's high definition. It might not look as good as you remember.
Okay.
Because I looked at it, I watched it, and I'm like, this looks very Godzilla, in terms of the jerky motions of the.
Right.
I mean, it's scary.
And there's kids in it that are shrunk. There's a Lego. There's a lot going on in that scene.
There is a lot going on, and it must have been.
There's quite a discussion too about how people can't handle the scene, and how that they fell in love with Auntie, and it was so depressing part of their childhood and stuff.
Auntie! There!
He looks hurt.
No!
He saved my life.
No, he's gonna be okay.
So how I picked up on one of the things too, I was looking, and we had an earlier discussion today on, what the brick was, and was it Lego or not, and I found some video, and they never used the words Lego on the studs on the brick, which is interesting.
Yeah, well, they probably didn't have the rights for that, right?
No, it was the patent hadn't expired yet. Besides, that's their logo. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but you could crawl into that, and that was cool, because that's what the kids did, right?
Right.
They slept in the Lego brick in the back of it.
Exactly. Now getting back to the hose. So water would squirt out of the side of it, and it would stay as sort of a stream, a solid stream, kind of like the leaping fountains outside the Imagination Pavilion at Epcot. And then because they were so well controlled, they would hit drains in specific locations on the ground, and then those drains actually had little fountains in them that would create a splash around the impact point. So
that was so brilliant. They were so targeted, done so well.
Yeah, and so it was very reminiscent of the scene in the movie where they're dragging around the garden hose and the droplets of water are hitting, and they're in the movie, they're shooting up 4 or 5 feet high, very dangerous, but it definitely gave you that feeling. And you could kind of bypass that section if you didn't want to get wet, but like a lot of times kids would run around in there and get a little wet too. So good fun on a hot day. The third section was the Mushroom Climber. So this was 3 levels of interconnected tunnels with a spiral staircase. And if you went up to the top, there were kind of windows cut through the sides, so you could look over the play area from there. And kind of the big feature is if you made it all the way top, it's like you could encounter the nose of Quark the dog, which was hanging over there. And if you walked up to it, you could hear him sniff. So he'd go very loudly. And in the early days, he would intermittently sneeze on you and spray out, a mist on you. At least for the first couple of years they did that, because that was a big feature, I guess, in the movie as well, because they used that also in the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience movie.
Right.
As a gag, right? So,
and it was so great because you didn't expect it. People would go up there and be like, "Oh, here's the dog's nose," and all of a sudden, shoo!
Yeah,
and it doesn't matter. Just the thought of being sneezed on, it doesn't. It's water, but you're still completely grossed out.
Right? Yeah, you're just not. And there were enormous mushrooms up there.
Oh yeah,
like 20, 30 foot tall. There were some on the side that you could get into. There was kind of a neat photo spot where the stalk was off of it and you could get into it. So it was really, really nicely done. And the tunnels, those are the ones that tended to be kind of tight. And there were some lights inside, but that was definitely like more of a kid sized thing to get through.
It's funny when you look at all these pictures and you dig into this, you can tell where the parents stopped, because the parents weren't giving their kid a camera to take it up and take a picture of Quark. I mean, it just wasn't going to happen. So like, not many parents made it up there to take a photo up there.
Yeah, which is funny. It wasn't really that high. It was a pretty simple staircase on that one to get up to, but they're definitely
just go.
They're just like, I don't want to see that.
How did they ever have a map of everything so you knew where stuff was? Because I was looking for one and I couldn't find anything.
It's funny, one of the things as I was doing this is like, I was thinking I just need to draw out a map for myself to try to orient where everything was. So maybe that's something that'll work on that we can share.
Get Jason to make that.
Yeah, a little fun map of the playground.
That's our next giveaway. We'll hide all of ourselves in them.
Shh, don't tell.
That would I advocate for that. I think that would be a fun item for people. Okay, so the Kodak slide. This is, I think, one of the most photographed sections on here. So it was a 15-foot long, 9-foot high roll of Kodak Gold 100 film. If you went inside of it, there was an echo chamber. And then it looked like there was a hole punched through from the inside, and kids could, or adults, because I did, you could crawl out of it. And then part of the film, if you remember the way film used to be, there was kind of like the film when you first got it, the leader would stick out, so you could put it in your 35 millimeter camera and forward it. That unspooled film acts as a slide, and they did a great job matching that sort of weird brown green color. Of exposed film.
People don't realize that exposed film has that color to it, and it's not just black or invisible or whatever. But yeah, I don't know how many people caught on. But when I saw it for the first time, I was like, that's it. And I'm wondering why they chose Kodacolor Gold 100. I mean, 400 was the big film. That's what you always used 400. 100 was for daylight. And why Kodak? Yeah, I don't know. Brian, you clicked your mouth there. You might have a thought.
I don't.
Okay.
It just, they obviously they picked a choice.
Yeah, I mean, at the time I can tell you, Kodak Gold, the 100 was probably the most normal.
And I think the gold was a late 80s branding, wasn't it? Like,
introducing Kodacolor Gold 100.
I see your true colors shining through. See your true colors shining through.
Kodacolor Gold 100 gives you the most accurate colors, the truest colors of any print film.
So don't be afraid to let them show.
A new Kodacolor Gold.
Yes, it did come later on. I'm just interested in why 100, because that's a that's a fast film designed for extreme daylight. You would never use it inside.
It's an outdoor film. You know, the 400 was for indoors if you're shooting attractions. The 100 was for outdoors, and then you'd get the 200 if you wanted to sort of split the difference in the middle. Right. But yeah, and 100 was definitely way cheaper than the 400.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That gold branding came out in like '86, so it was their product of the moment. Was they were slapping gold on things, and so it's that makes sense in a 1989 attraction that they would be still pimping their gold film, which came after their disc film.
And they were still a sponsor at that point, so
they were a major sponsor because they not only did from '82 on they not just did the Imagination Pavilion, but all the photography in the parks, all the photo shops, all the film sold. I mean, Kodak was all over all 4 of those parks until they went bankrupt in 2012.
Yeah. Oh, and for those of you who are real super nerds, the slides were made from polyurethane, if you wondered about that.
Glad we got that taken care of.
Yeah, Section 5 was a 3-story high, the spider web. It was a 3-story high double helix spiral of 11 play pens connected by cargo nets. So you would... Eventually they put up a sign saying which way the entrance was, because at first they didn't. I think people were confused, like which was the entrance and which was the exit. But you would literally, do a net climb up around this stalk of something and back down again. And it was just really just a spiral up it and then a spiral back down again. But that was a really big deal at that point.
That was my least favorite part. I thought it was so cheesy that they thought we should think that's a spider web. They had all this great theming, and then you're like, this is like a SeaWorld cargo net. It's not that,
That one reminded me of, Brian, it's Sesame Place, right? Has a very big, but that's
Sesame
really
Place
large.
So when Sesame Place originally opened, there were no rides at all. Everything was kinetic. So it was, ball pits and big giant rope lands to climb through, all of which they still have, but now there's a bunch of rides there too. So that is what it reminds me. And in a smaller scale, Chuck E. Cheese, those kind of places had those like nets you would climb up on the side, and that's what this spider web that JT doesn't buy.
Or your common rope cat condo that you can buy on Amazon today.
Yeah. Now I don't know if this was a common feature of other theme parks or other places that had playgrounds at that time, or if it was new, because I think that was the first place that I experienced it. But as the years have gone on, I think every major theme park with a kids play area has something like that. Captain Kidd's World at SeaWorld, they had some ropes that you could climb, kind of like a big net, but nothing of this fashion.
Yeah, I feel like our SeaWorld right by us here had one. I don't know if it was, I could be wrong, but the old Clyde and Seymour play area,
they
had that
SeaWorld
netting.
had a hotel, Clyde and Seymour play area. I wish I was there to play in it.
Do you?
Yeah. Big fan of Clyde and Seymour.
They're some fine sea lions, aren't they?
They're still there.
They never die. They still look as good as they used to. Yep. The Charo and those 2 sea lions, they're like somehow managed to look fantastic despite their age. All right. Hey, here's one that I think everybody got their picture with. So as we were talking about Auntie the Ant, who's the bold hero who died for our sins.
Yes.
Pour one out for Auntie, everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was a full-scale Auntie there with sort of this grass harness and the sled, just like in the movie. And they actually encouraged you to climb on it, which is one of the few things I think at Disney. Of course, they kind of encourage you to climb on everything here, but it's very rare that you get to climb on a character and not have a cast member yell at you to get off of it. So that was a great spot for photos, except it was usually so swamped. It was hard to get a picture of yourself or your loved one with it, because it seems like there was always just like 20 people trying to climb on it all at the same time, right?
Some other kid.
Yeah.
They that was the other thing with that too. It was so cool because you just came from seeing the movie, and then you go and you're like, oh my gosh, 7, 8 years old, they pulled this right from the movie set. They had to because I'm at Hollywood Studios, so you thought you were on a movie prop pretty much.
Yeah, it was, again, this whole thing is really built around the wish fulfillment of putting you in the film. And it does spectacularly well, like in all of these sections. And right behind Auntie was a giant oatmeal cream cookie, which I think that's what they fed the ant, right, in order to make friends with it.
Well,
they did.
That was they were eating it too.
Nick's cookie.
It was Nick's breakfast, and he was hiding it from Wayne Zelinsky before he left for the science convention, and he didn't finish it, and so it went in the trash. And
I've died and gone to heaven.
It's as big as a house. I saw it first. It's mine. I got dibs on the cream filling.
Nick, it's one of your cookies.
Now the other thing too, he had that kid. He let the kid cut the grass, and the kid had to pay him to cut the grass a box of cookies, and that's the box of cookies, the oatmeal cream pies.
And the reason the kid wanted to cut the grass was because he has of course,
Remote
Wayne
control.
Zelinsky designed this remote control snapper or snap-on mower, and naturally, it's got a solar panel and it's got a bunch of whirligigs and stuff on it. It looks like Rolly Crump designed it. So, and that's another tension point of the movie is when the kid's mowing the lawn while the shrunken children are still in the lawn, and the parents realize it and they're like, "Stop!" And there's this tense moment where they have, the youngest one almost gets sucked up into the mower and.
Give me that thing.
But they managed to survive to make 2 sequels and a theme park attraction.
Silly Tommy cutting the grass.
Oh, that kid. All right, so section 7, I think this was another favorite, was the giant Cheerio cereal. So
from the very
they
end
had
of the
these
movie.
Cheerios. They're about 9 feet in diameter. You could crawl on and into, as a reference to the scene of the movie where the kids fall into the cereal bowl. There was probably 4 or 5 of them, and they were propped up in different sections. But I mean, the biggest one was horizontal, and you could crawl into it and then kind of stick your body out, so you looked exactly like the kid in the movie. Those were made out of dense foam with a urethane covering. So again, kind of soft. You could crawl on them. Although, as we'll find out shortly, it's like they didn't necessarily have a long lifespan with all the kids crawling on it made out of those materials. And then the last section, which if you're either young or young at heart, you probably remember, was the giant root slide. And so you would crawl up to the top of this root section, and there were 4 slides, and you could kind of pick which one you wanted to go on. They were kind of arranged in a semicircle as you got to the top. So you could pick, left, right, and it's funny. It's like I would see pictures all the time. I don't know why, but every so often they would close off one of the slides. And then so there was like a piece of brown plywood that they would put over the entrance and the exit to it.
And it was perfectly cut and everything to the shape. So
yeah. Which I guess if they needed to close the slide, that's how you do that. But kids would just slide like crazy. And that area also had a giant paperclip. That was kind of the thing that was well known about that. So one of the things that I never really thought about, because I kind of stopped going to the parks around 2000, but I never realized until I saw some photos going through that they actually made changes to the movie set adventure over time, which I had kind of missed out on. So it looks like the Cheerios were removed about 1999, probably because I can remember 97, 98. It's like they had started to tear, and the soft covering was going away, and you could kind of see the foam underneath them. So I guess they just decided to bag it and get rid of the Cheerios altogether. And so they took them out, and they put like a 40-foot tall bee kind of on top of the dirt behind it at that point. And then there were some big changes that happened because Disney signed a licensing deal with Hasbro. on September 20th, 2000, which included the licensing of Disney film and television characters and what they call certain theme park features. Anyways, what this really means is that Hasbro became the official toy and game company at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, and Disneyland Paris. So sometime possibly in 2001, the Lego bricks were removed and they were replaced by a part of a big round Tinker Toy and a canister of Play-Doh. And then 2 light bright pegs were added into the play area, along with a Super Soaker water gun over by the garden hose. So I don't know if it was as Todd said, it's like I think Lego bricks were licensed at some point, or you would probably have to pay a licensing fee. So I don't know if Lego found out and they got mad, or they're just like, hey, Hasbro, we're going to do you a solid and put some of your toys in here. And they opened up the Once Upon a Toy all Hasbro shop over at Lake Buena Vista at downtown Disney. I think 2002 they did that. So Hasbro became a huge fixture of the parks, and that's when they started making like the Haunted Mansion Clue and all the board games, and they went crazy with Hasbro. So all of a sudden we got a lot of Hasbro in there. The last kind of change was, as Brian alluded to, in January of 2012, Kodak filed for bankruptcy protection. For some reason, in the era of the digital camera, nobody wanted to buy film anymore. And Kodak somehow didn't anticipate that.
Didn't see this one coming.
Yeah, so December 31st of 2012, the sponsorship deal with Disney ended. And by January of 2014, the Kodak branding was removed from the film canister slide. It's funny, they didn't try to replace it with anything. It literally just became like blank. They didn't make a fake looking thing or anything.
At that point, people didn't even know what the heck they were sliding down. The kids didn't know what film was.
That is a fair point.
Like you weren't buying it anywhere. So.
Right. It wasn't the common item that it was when that was put together. The play area stayed open until April 2nd of 2016. And at that point, it was wiped out to become part of Galaxy's Edge, just as Todd mentioned. But for those years between 1990 and 2016, it was a heck of a lot of fun for families and kids and even some adults. It was always busy. I know I even as an adult, I would go in there and do stuff because it was well done, good themed, really made you feel like you were in the film. And I think it was like even after they changed the tone of the walking tour, and so that way you didn't have to they broke it up so you could come and go as you needed to. It was still a great place for kids to go and burn off some energy before they went off and did stuff for the rest of the day there.
I liked it. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I was older, when it opened. Let's see, I was 16, I think, when it opened. So it wasn't. I was trying to cram my body through it then. I think when I first went, I was like, oh, I'm too big for this. But later on, like I said, I tried to squeeze through.
I didn't see it until I was 22, something like that, at which point I was not really, we used to cut through there to get to some other part of the park. That's what I remember. And that's why I remember that snack bar was there, because it was like, oh, we'll just go over here so we can walk around it. And
that's true. You could kind of cut by the entrance and actually come out through a movie theater marquee onto New York Street after that was opened up for you to walk through.
Right.
So that was a cut through point to get between New York Street and then that snack bar.
Yeah. So I'm the one here that didn't really spend much time in there other than saying, oh, look, there's a big Cheerio. There's a big Kodak film.
But JT, you said you were 7 when you... Was that correct?
Yeah, it might have been 8. Yeah.
Okay. So you probably crawled all over that thing.
Oh yeah, that was great because you just had freedom, and like I said, it was like a movie scene. I mean, it was awesome back there, and I remember doing all the stuff, the tunnels and everything. I mean, it was a big deal, and I mean, I would go back frequently just to see it again, in like later years, like middle school and high school and beyond. But yeah, it was. I just recall the whole, like, we had to wait in line, like there was a line to get into it, like it was full spring break. And it was hot and all that. And then you'd get in there and finally, I just remember these pictures brought back memories of how crowded it felt and just people everywhere and adults in the way. And I just want to play it. Get out of my way.
Yeah, I do remember it being really warm and the fans in the corner going and trying to keep, because it did get crowded in there. And, I'm trying to remember if the exit and the entrance were next to each other. Did they regulate the number of people in there?
Yeah, I remember I've seen waiting signs, how many minute wait to get in.
Maybe that's what Clipboard Charlie was doing.
Oh, he was watching who's
Mystery
coming
Clipboard
in. Yeah.
Man that you found in 2 videos 2 years apart wearing the same outfit.
His job is just to watch how many goes in and tell how many to come in.
Yeah,
so.
there was definitely a cast member posted at the entrance. And so you're right. Someone must have been in there counting people coming in and coming out, so that way it would hit whatever the capacity was that it was intended to be.
But I mean, the kids could spend a good 30, 40, 50 minutes in there if they wanted to.
Oh yeah, nobody timed you. You could do as long as you wanted to. But yeah, it was like, I remember standing, it was like a corrugated like metal wall you stood by with like chain link fence. Just very, I mean, all that stuff, that outdoorsy type attractions, the studios all seemed very just, I don't want to say thrown together, but it just seemed like not.
Well, it was you were backstage. It didn't have to be perfect.
It was supposed to look like a back lot.
Right. Yeah. One of the walls was the
back
side of the
fences.
Yeah, one of the walls was the back side of the New York street. Right. You had that in there.
Yeah,
and it is an interesting part of it too, that the main entrance was like, which was that? I mean, that's Streets of America, all of it, but which street was that actually? It was on. Was there?
It was on one the main street that was coming down there.
It was on New York Street.
Yeah, that New York Street.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just crazy, like, because if you didn't know, I mean, it almost just looked like a movie theater or something you're walking into until you kind of realize the grass is protruding above. But then are we going to dress the marquee with the wrong name?
We should.
And by the way, you didn't have to enter through the marquee either. You could go through New York Street, or you could go around it.
Originally, when you came off the backlot trams, when New York Street was not open to foot traffic, you would come in from the studio catering company side in order to come in and get out. And then eventually, when they opened it up, that's when they opened up that entrance and exit also through the theater as a pass through.
So the outside of it was like if you'd change the movie titles, like that type of marquee, and they're permanent, I assume, but they had a different name. It said Honey, I Shrunk the Kids Play Set Adventure, which we can't find any signs that actually say that anywhere else.
Yeah, the in the park brochures, it all says Movie Set Adventure. All of the materials for it, the promotional stuff, all says Movie Set Adventure. So someone made a mistake and nobody caught it for years and years and years.
Yeah, I'm looking to see if there's any other thought remnants, like where you could go walk, like I said, other than walking through Batu in the pathway when you're walking in from Grand Avenue past the tap house. It curves, and you're in it. You're where it was. But there's no like little wall left, or, you know what I mean? Like there's no remnant of anything.
Oh no, that section was flattened.
Yeah.
During construction.
Yep, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at some of the history of the 2017. It was just.
And they even kept to the whole movie thing at the end. They got the little snapper thing, the movie ender thing, or whatever. What are those things called?
Movie clapper. I think that's
the movie.
Right.
That's a wrap. Thanks for playing.
I'm trying to remember if that was there at first, or if they needed to like reinforce this is the entrance, this is the exit, because.
Yeah, and I've seen 2 entrance signs. I've seen one of the red with the yellow letters and the black diagonal lines on it, like the trams looked like, and then I've seen kind of like a blue one that had a minute wait time and all that stuff. So 2 different versions of signs on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are probably sort of in the same area, but there's kind of like this weird curved pole that it was all attached to.
Yeah.
But hey, it worked. That's the important thing.
Now, how before that was there? I'm racking my brain when they built that. You used to originally get off the tram at a slightly different location. You'd walk through the tank. That courtyard there where the commissary came out, where just what used to be Pixar plays, that wasn't, if I recall, that was, you didn't even go back there, right?
No.
That was all closed off. So
No, they were production areas. They were...
Well, no, this is the Great Movie Ride is to the right. I'm just looking at the overview. I'm trying to think I almost needed an opening day map.
So originally when you walked up to the Great Movie Ride, that was completely shut off to the left-hand side of it.
Right.
And so you could not go back in between there. And that would, because that was cut off, and at one point the tram tour would actually kind of take you a little bit into that area and then back over again.
Yeah, what I'm looking at here in this original map, it looks like I'll paste it into our chat. It looks like the spot was there, but empty according to this thing. It's just the bathrooms were there, it looks like. The chill room.
No, there's, I think we actually have either a photo or two or film or video. Maybe I have it from when I went on opening day. And you originally, when you would walk out back there, I think they had some of the two of the red cars there, or maybe one of the red cars originally. But you could see the backside of the facade from New York Street, and is just literally that red facade. There wasn't much to do back there,
right?
Except kind of, maybe walk around to those restrooms, because you would come off of the backlot tour, dump into the loony bin, and then you would pick up the walking tour really on the other side of that. You would actually walk straight under an overhang over to where the water tank was, and then from there go into start the special effects tour, and then walk through the productions, the sound stages and stuff. So it was all of the action kind of took place on, I guess, the north end, and this sort of courtyard area was down on the south end. So there wasn't much reason to be down there until they finally opened up New York Street and let you walk around. But that was quite a bit of time. Yeah, originally the tram would actually take you down to the end of New York Street where the large fake buildings were, hang a left, and then take you down to where the Monahan's garage facade used to be.
Right.
Which was actually not far down from the right side of the Chinese theater, and that's where the Ditmobile was. And then it would take you back again down an alley over to a side street, and then drop you off for the rest of the backlot tour. So yeah, you could neither walk that way immediately to the left of the Chinese theater, nor towards the right of the Chinese theater, which would take you down to where Pixar Place was.
Well, it was a hot set, you can't.
Yeah, it was a half day park.
It's just amazing how that park has changed.
And we loved it for what it was, and continue to love it for what it is now.
Cobb salads for everyone. Well, Howie, I appreciate you taking us back in time here to the playground. I have fond memories of watching my own son. So this is the first time that I've actually been able to talk about an attraction that's gone, I think, that my son has been on. So that makes me feel old. Oh man. So people are probably wondering, well, what it's not 25 years gone. Isn't that your rule? But yeah, it's true.
It doesn't have to be gone for 25 years. It just has to be 25 years old. So
right.
We'll be doing one on Journey into Imagination with Figment in what, a couple years, right?
Couple years, I think.
Couple years. We're almost at 25
almost
years.
But
So it's going on 19 now, so 6 more years.
It's hard to believe that the studios is 33 years old this year, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
And actually, what's fascinating is going through. If you want to see how video and photography technology has changed, this is actually a great attraction because you can go back to YouTube videos from 1990. And then slowly you watch the quality get better and better and better of the video as you go forward in time. And by the time you get to like 2016, people are going in with 2K and 4K cameras
high
and like
definition
getting every detail.
Pops McFarkle was still using the VHS-C shoulder carry bag in 2000, my understanding.
So it's neat. It's neat because this is one of those attractions like the Great Movie Ride that died in the fully digital era, and so there's pretty decent documentation of it, at least in its second form. With
and it was also there's two things: the videotape era where we've talked about guys would just fill tapes up with here's 2 hours of video of us at Hollywood Studios for the day, which was brutal to watch after the fact. Here's Timmy standing in line for 9 minutes fidgeting, and just that's it. That's the whole. You're fast forwarding through it, but playing in the playground, they would just take an hour of video of it, and it survives. I wonder now how much of that. It's something I think about. So much of these phone videos that people take of their kids or of fireworks at the parks or every other stupid thing, concerts, like, are they storing these somewhere? Are they keeping them? Like, is it?
You're Brian. I've thought about this too. You're right. And what's the problem is that because there is no physical media, if you don't upload it, there might be an awesome video out there of the wave machine of 50 years from now, what they're looking for, but it's on somebody's cloud that they don't have access, and it's been archived into an Iron Mountain.
I know that I think the hard drive that has my first 6 years of iPhoto when Apple first came out is just gone. The drive doesn't work anymore. So those pictures that I have from when I stopped, I was using a digital camera, but they stored them all there. I would download them all there. And so everything from like 2000 to 2006 it's just gone. It's almost all of it is gone. I don't know how to access it.
And you're not going to go to a flea market 20 years from now, like,
right?
Hey, grandma's
Find
cloud drive.
Hard drive.
Grandma's hard drive. I'm just selling you the credentials. We don't know what's on it. The physical media means something, and it is. We are in an interesting age that if it's not in a cloud system that can be accessed by anyone, it's going to go the way of the dodo.
I'm just curious. There was a period of time early on when we all had, when people would get these digital handheld cameras, and I do still see, obviously bloggers that don't have them in the parks. These purpose-made cameras, they're not shooting with their phones, but like parents don't get those anymore. So you used to have like, Jimmy year 1, Jimmy year 2, Jimmy year 3, and there would be a videotape or a, so. And now it's these little snips of, there's Tommy's at bat in the Little League game, and like, I don't think anybody's watching that in 10 years. Like, you're not going to have it. You're not going.
That's true.
We don't even upload them to Facebook or anything anymore. Like where you can go, but every now and then I'll come across videos I uploaded to Facebook, like now 15 years ago, believe it or not, and I'm like, I don't even know where that video is now if I wanted to find it. Like,
see, what I tend to do is we'll shoot like a whole trip, snips like that on my, whatever, iPhone or GoPro, and then I take them and put them all together in one video.
There you go, sir.
Which is nice.
The whole trip, and then I put it on YouTube.
So you learned something from your editing tour on the studio's backlot tour.
I did. I was thinking hot set. It's a hot set here in the basement.
Do you have a hot set sign for
I don't.
your
I
basement
need
door?
It's. I'm telling you. This hit me the other day. It's like that. As much as I say it every episode, that park made me love movies. I mean, I went and saw the new Top Gun movies, and I was just like, I love movies. I love how they're made. I loved watching the making of that. I mean, even though it's a cheesy action movie, it was just like fun. I love this stuff. It's so cool.
It's as I said, what stuck out to me most, and I hope people do go back and watch the movie, because seeing everything done with physical sets and so few special effects, and when I say special effects, digital effects, this was all kind of done using physical things. It was really a throwback for me. And by the way, if you want to know how mind-blowing it was for us old guys and gals, watch that and then watch Jurassic Park, which came out 3 years later.
Yeah, that was insane.
And it just blows, like Jurassic Park blew our minds.
But it was a budgetary thing too, right? The budget of both films
right,
completely
but they
different.
just physically couldn't do it in 1989.
True.
And then in 1992 and 93, Terminator 2 comes out with the liquid
still holds
guy
up.
and the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, and Forrest Gump's talking to JFK. Like, it all happened in like a couple of years. Like, it just like magic overnight. The movie's completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't a progressive thing. I mean, just anything you can think of. And Star Wars started to come out at the end of the decade, and everything is digital.
Yeah, that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, those practical effects, they just hit a little different. They feel a little different. But I mean, my kid's 7. She'll watch that with me.
And it's fun. It's got because there's a little bit of playset kind of look to it. It's not as scary as it would be today if it was made to look completely real.
Now, was that one Touchstone, or did that say Disney at the beginning?
That was Disney.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that cartoon at the beginning too, with the whole, the animated credits.
Oh
and all that.
yeah.
Well, and that also had a pre-cartoon. That was Roger Rabbit. There was a Roger Rabbit cartoon before that. That was the leader before that. If you saw it in the theater, which I'm going to forget the name of it.
Was it Tummy Trouble?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh,
that's
there
it,
you
Tummy
go.
Trouble. And so that was that ran.
What an
before.
era!
Yeah, it was the golden years.
Touchstone. Oh,
youth.
We're all sitting
Smell
here
the youth.
whittling wood on our porches talking about
a child's play set.
They were fantastic.
Back when movies were movies.
Here's my question about that area. Was there anywhere around there that had like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids souvenirs or takeaways from that? I don't remember anything.
I don't remember a lot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids merchandise, but since we're live, and I've got eBay in front of me, I'm gonna.
You go do that. I think the one. I mean, we'll talk about as how mentioned. They did the bee thing in the walking tour where you'd fly in the bee.
There were McDonald's cups, JT.
Okay.
Those big giant cups from McDonald's with
39 cents with your value meal or something.
Yes, there were the big plastic cups.
But correct me if I'm wrong. But how on downtown. The main street there in the studios, that the photography shop where you could go and put your name on a magazine. Did they do any blue screen photos like on a bee or flying or anything there?
No, that wouldn't have made sense. No, and there wasn't a lot of merchandise. I mean, I think there were probably T-shirts. The logo configuration was absolutely like iconic at that time with the three typefaces like. The 3 layers of it like sitting on top of each other. They did a great job with logos during that time for films from Disney, and they were very very, very well done. But yeah, I'm sure it was huge on home video. But they didn't do any toys.
Because what do you do? I mean,
here's your
tiny action figures. All I have is the fanny pack to share with you there.
All you have is that, or you get the giant lawnmower that can suck you up. Or the unbreathable Glad bag over your head.
No Wayne Selinsky helmet with like the magnifying glasses and the lights on it.
No, but a couple of people have done like the Disney Halloween parties in that Wayne Selinsky hat.
Okay.
So.
I see Honey, I Shrunk the Kid's bomber jacket on eBay for $500.
Woo. Yeah, I think some of the production stuff, like you see some Honey, I Shrunk the Kid's watch. Oh my God! Look at this. I'm trying to see if it was a cereal premium or something.
The kid's hanging from the minute
Ballpark Franks. Ballpark Franks had a Honey, I Shrunk the Kid's wristwatch that you could send away for, but it was to promote the TV show that they did with Peter Scolari.
Oh, okay.
Not with.
It looks like there were some Hot Wheels for Honey, I Shrunk the Kid's movies. What is this? Hold on. This was a premium too. You had to mail away for this. These are sharks really and
fascinating. Toys and hobbies.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. There's little Hot Wheels.
Hot
These
Wheels.
are all
it was
from
a
the TV
mail
show.
away from the TV show.
Yep.
Interesting.
So this must be right before. So honestly, it's so as we discussed, this is right at that transition where they're changing, companies, and they probably didn't get the deal with Hasbro in time to actually produce toys for this. I mean, even if you think about Toy Story in '94, it's like that was done by some little company called Thinkway that no one ever heard of. So it's like they didn't have the toys running on all cylinders yet.
No,
This guy, I'm pasting this one, and this guy did a panoramic shot so you can see the entire McDonald's cup without having to turn it around. That's amazing.
Brilliant.
That's amazing.
There's some on-set candid shots. There's a lenticular button.
Not a lot though.
And how there's the November 1992 Cinefex magazine number 52 had all about the special effects.
Oh, I think we can probably grab that off of the Internet Archive.
If you can find it, Cinefex magazine 52.
Excellent.
They did make a Quark Beanie Baby looking guy at Epcot.
Oh wow.
Oh, look
Honey,
at that.
I Shrunk the Audience.
Oh,
And
right.
There was a messenger bag. Maybe that's the fanny.
Yeah, the fanny pack messenger bag thing. I'm guessing that may have also been the TV show, though, that they...
Right,
some of that stuff was to, because that was 97 they did that, at which point, they owned ABC, they bought the Family Channel, they were trying to produce content for...
Maybe we should just watch this on Laserdisc. Laserdiscs are available too. We'll just...
I can't, you've got my player.
It's right up here.
Now, I always wanted as a kid, I remember watching when Nick's sitting there at the kitchen table and he's got the miniature shrinking machine and he shrinks the dog, or he'd say, it works. I always thought that would be cool to sit like on your nightstand or something, a miniature Wayne Zielinski shrinking machine.
There we go. A lot of working parts and wires.
And didn't I see that the original shrinking machine prop has been restored, and it was recently at the Bowers Museum?
Oh, you're right.
Yes, that's right. There was an episode on television about that too, where they went around to find the different parts to bring that together.
Yes, I can't. Prop culture, was that what the...
It might have been on
Disney
there, yeah.
Plus?
Yeah,
I think it was.
That's right. And they restored the whole thing, and they found some of the original parts and had to remake
And I mean,
something.
you should note that the redo of the final redo of Figment, the one that's there now with Eric Idle, they linked that and the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience attraction because Eric Idle was the awards presenter,
right?
Presenting there was some synergy between the two pieces of the attraction. You'd go on to the Figment ride where the walk-in had some links to Zielinski at the Imagination Institute, and then the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience interactive film attraction was an award ceremony, ostensibly for the Institute,
right?
So
Imagination Institute, I think, right?
Yeah. So they made sense because you're walking through the Imagination Institute to get into the.
Why don't we just talk about the movie right now? Let's go through it.
Well, and in fact, Brian, the Honey, I Shrunk the Audience attraction came first, and then they retconned the ride
There we go.
to fit into it.
Yeah.
And I think we can all say thank God that they did, because that second ride was one of the worst things that anybody ever had to endure ever. So,
agreed.
That's right. So, well, Hal and gentlemen, thank you for taking this step back in time with us tonight. As always, it was great fun. And maybe we can...
little something for the 90s fans.
Yeah, for the 90s and movie fans. MGM, it felt good to be back there a couple of weeks ago. It feels good to do this. How maybe you and I can brainstorm on some Honey, I Shrunk the Kids type t-shirt. Like I Survived the Slide, or I don't know. We'll come up with something fun with maybe the sign would had that stamp on it, movie set adventure.
I did see
that.
a lovely shirt that was done for the opening crew.
Oh,
that maybe can reproduce that artwork.
Yeah,
and not get in any trouble because that's kind
of. We'll do that in Norway. We can maybe do both.
Actually, you could just sell a blank T-shirt and tell people everything is shrunk down on it. You just need to.
You just can't
sell something really, really tiny that you need a magnifying glass.
If we sold really small shirts too, Yvonne might buy them all too.
Yes, to interview with her tiny microphone.
With her tiny microphone, she could interview the tiny shirt and the tiny apple and everything. So, well, this has been great fun as always, gentlemen. I appreciate it. So for everybody out there listening, please send us your thoughts and comments, questions to podcast@retrowdw.com. You can also give us a call at 978-71-RETRO, and maybe you'll get on the air with some of your recordings. As always, we love bringing this to you every month. You can check out all of our merchandise that we have for sale at retrowdw.com/support us. And that will take you to our TeePublic shop, which has all the different pieces of merchandise and designs that Hal and Jason and a few others have done over the years. We've got a lot of great stuff. Always try to add some great things in there. And all proceeds go directly to the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. And you can also donate directly at lbvhs.org/donate. So, gentlemen, again, thank you very much for your time. I know next month I don't think we've decided where we're going yet, but I'm hoping we're going to stay in the attraction realm. We'll start doing some research. We've got some ideas for different places. So thanks to everybody for listening.
Going to do the Main Street Omnibus.
Just the omnibus, the whole
horse cart. That's it. Yeah.
Are we going to interview that gentleman that goes behind with that container?
The honey bucket?
As my dad, my dad called them road apples.
Road apples.
That's what my dad called them, road apples.
The road apple cleaner.
The road apple scooper.
Yep. We'll put him or her on the air and go from there. So, so we'll be back with next month. And again, if you can give us a shout out on iTunes, or a positive review there is always welcome, or wherever your favorite podcasting app is. Available in fine stores everywhere, right, Brian? Just as they would say.
Wherever tapes or records are sold, yes.
That's right. Your finest podcast app. So with that, we'll see you next month. Brian, take us out.
Follow the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society on Twitter and Instagram at LBV History, and on the web at lbvhistory.org. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at retrowdw.com, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RetroWDW. And follow our hosts, Todd McCartney, on Twitter at WDWMS, Hal Bowers on Twitter and Instagram at GoAwayGreen, JT Cougar on Twitter at LS1JT, and on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring, and on the web at rubbercitymotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Brian P. Miles. Retro Disney World is the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, a nonpartisan, nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 organization, and is not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its subsidiary or affiliated entities.